He walked with a pen in his hand and truth in his heart. He lived in Nyamira, the soft hills, dusty roads, small shops, people living ordinary lives. But he saw things others ignored. Deals made behind closed doors, public money diverted, power abused. He exposed them, and in doing so, he painted targets on more than one pair of shoulders. This is the story of Francis Nyaruri, also known by the pen name Mongare Mokua. A freelance journalist, a voice for the voiceless, a man who believed in the power of words until the night words weren't enough to protect him. On the 15th of January 2009, Francis disappeared. He was last seen alive, as far as his family and colleagues know. 2 weeks later, on the 29th of January, his body was found on the outskirts of Kodera Forest in western Kenya, decapitated, hands bound. A message, they say, a warning, and then silence. A case that has left so many questions unanswered. A family in pain. A community afraid. A nation asking, why justice so slow? Who pulled the trigger? Who ordered it? In this documentary, we will trace everything known about what Francis did, who he exposed, the threats, the investigation, the trials, and the gaps. We will ask the tough questions that remain. Was anyone held accountable? Did evidence disappear? Did those in power benefit from his silence? And we'll explore why his story matters, not only for those who knew him, but for all of us who believe that journalism must be free, and that corruption, which isn't exposed, becomes corruption, which grows. Hello, and welcome back to Murder Mystery Kenya, your home for the deepest, most gripping true crime and mystery stories from right here in Kenya and beyond. First, a huge thank you to all our amazing subscribers. Your support means the world to us. Every like, every comment, and every share helps keep these incredible stories alive. If you're new here, karibu sana. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and theories. Your support helps us dig deeper, uncover the truth, and tell even more chilling stories you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's dive into today's mystery. Francis was not born into fame. He was not a big city editor with a team of reporters. He was one of many freelance journalists in Kenya, people who write for small publications, sometimes under pen names, driven by curiosity and conscience. Under the pen name Mongare Mokua, Francis contributed to Weekly Citizen, among other outlets. He wrote locally focused stories, especially those that touched on the rundown roads, failing public services, and cases of corruption that few outside Nyamira knew about. He lived in Nyamira in western Kenya. His family included his wife, Josephine Kwamboka, and children. He was a man of modest means. His work was not always comfortable, always challenging. But he persisted. People who knew him say he had a habit of going straight to the scene. If there was a rumor about shady construction of a police house or a misused contract, he would try to check, ask locals, get documents, sometimes risk criticism. He believed in transparency. He believed that being small did not excuse being silent. It is significant that he published under a pen name, Mongare Mokua. Some local journalists use pseudonyms to protect themselves. In Francis' case, the pen name gave him a degree of separation, but not invisibility. Colleagues say that over time, his real name was known by those implicated. His work, modest though it was in scale, had gotten attention. Local people trusted him. They came to him with tips, complaining that money meant for public works was disappearing, that contractors were being paid without finishing roads, that police or local officials were abusing their authority. And Francis listened. He published. Thus, by early 2009, he had become one of the more courageous voices at the local level. A man small in resources, large in resolve. What was Francis writing about that made him dangerous? In the weeks before his disappearance, he published articles exposing alleged misconduct in a police construction housing project in County. The specifics are murky in public records, but according to reports, these were not trivial stories. They involved contracts supposedly awarded to certain contractors, payments made, projects undertaken but not completed or done poorly. Public funds were involved. Local officials were implicated, either as contractors themselves or as those with influence or oversight. He did more than simply report rumors. He gathered names, contracts, occasionally photographs or sketches. He questioned authorities. He attempted to verify allegations. That process is what made his work credible and simultaneously what made enemies. After publishing these stories, multiple sources report that Francis received threats. The threats were verbal, sometimes over the phone, sometimes insinuations by people he confronted. Colleagues remember the tension. Some said they saw shadows following him. Some said Francis said he felt watched. One article, source, local press archives, quoted him asking, "If I disappear, will you remember who asked the questions?" This was before he vanished. He was aware the line he was walking was dangerous. Local people say the contractors involved in local police housing were used to being paid, used to approval without oversight. A lot of money flows through small contracts at the county level, often minimal auditing. Oversight bodies were weak. When someone tries to expose that system, the system pushes back. On the 15th of January 2009, Francis was last seen alive. He had gone about his day, perhaps going to buy construction materials, perhaps visiting contacts, perhaps following up on leads. His last call was made that morning, according to his family. Then nothing. No confirmed sightings after that day. His family grew worried. Colleagues attempted contact. Days passed. Then, on 29th January 2009, 14 days later, a body was discovered on the edges of Kodera Forest. The forest is dense, remote. The body was identified by his wife at Kisii Hospital. The condition was brutal. The body was decapitated. His hands were bound. The details are particularly chilling. The severing of the head is seen by many as a symbolic act, an attempt to dehumanize, to send a message. The discovery shocked the county and the Kenyan journalism community. Press freedom groups condemned the killing immediately. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, Reporters Without Borders, RSF, and UNESCO all issued statements. They called for swift, transparent investigations. The Kenyan public and media demanded justice. Inside the family, there was grief and fear. His wife, children, they witnessed more than loss. They witnessed the slow turning of their matter into headlines, speculation, rumors. They want answers. Was it someone he named? Did someone want him silent? Who profited? Though the body was found, much was, from that moment, already in question. The chain of evidence, the handling by local law enforcement, how quickly the investigation began, whether key leads were followed. From the discovery onward, there were expectations. Police would investigate, arrests would be made, evidence would be collected. But over time, many close observers noted delays, allegations of non-cooperation, and gaps. Timeline: 15th of January 2009. Francis disappears. 29th of January 2009. Body found. 2009 to 2010. Arrests of 2 suspects at different times. Reports differ on when exactly, but CPJ records 2 arrests, one in 2009, another in 2010. 2015, the 2 suspects were acquitted. The court found insufficient evidence. Issues raised: 1. Delay in search and response. Family and colleagues suggest that once Francis was reported missing, police moved slowly. Some communities say that because he was a local reporter, or because the crime was up in a rural area, there wasn't urgency. 2. Lack of forensic resources. In investigations of such brutality, forensic evidence, DNA, binding materials, fingerprints, location scans, such as verifying whether the body was moved, are crucial. Public sources indicate that either such evidence was poorly collected or not made public. 3. Witness intimidation and fear. Local sources say witnesses were afraid. Some say they were warned to keep quiet. Others say locals thought speaking could endanger them. This is not unusual in cases involving official wrongdoing. 4. Chain of custody and evidence leakage. Questions remain whether the evidence that was collected was preserved, whether police files were lost or destroyed, whether contractors' records were kept, whether phone records were subpoenaed and preserved. 5. Prosecutorial challenges. The 2 suspects, when arrested, reportedly faced charges. But when the case came to court, the evidence was considered weak. Eyewitnesses may have been unreliable or unwilling. Documentation may have been missing. The defense likely challenged the admissibility or credibility of evidence. 6th, acquittal. In 2015, the court acquitted the suspects. The ruling indicates that the prosecution had not met the standard of beyond reasonable doubt, a high bar in criminal law. For many observers, this outcome raised concerns that either the investigation had gaps or that influence, corruption or fear had interfered. In the wake of the acquittal, public trust in the process was shaken. For Francis's family, it was not the end, but a continuation of waiting. After the discovery of the body, law enforcement arrested 2 suspects, names in records from CPJ. The identities and roles of these suspects differ in various accounts. Public sources do not consistently identify them by name in all cases. The prosecution charged them with involvement in Francis's murder. After the acquittal, there was public disappointment. The family said they would continue pressing for justice. Press freedom organizations expressed concern that justice was not just about catching and convicting suspects. It was also about deterrence, about whether those in power who might have had motive were ever truly investigated. It appears there was no successful appeal, or at least none that reversed the acquittal, at least according to sources publicly available. No known civil case, compensation order, or official acknowledgement of systemic failures has been documented in widely accessible sources. If such exists, they have not been broadly reported. To understand the significance of this case, we must see it in context. Kenya has a rich tradition of journalism and political activism, but also a history of corruption, inequality, and impunity. Local journalists, especially in rural areas, often work with few resources under risk of threats, of legal pressure, sometimes violence. Many investigations never reach the court. Many suspects are never held responsible. In 2009, globally, the Committee to Protect Journalists recorded multiple killings of journalists. In countries with weaker rule of law or weak local institutions, investigative reporting into local corruption is among the most dangerous work. Francis's killing is one among many in Kenya, but notable for its symbolic weight. A reporter who uncovered misuse of public funds, named alleged wrongdoers, got threatened and then disappeared, only to be found murdered. It reinforced fear in journalistic communities. It raised urgent questions. If a reporter in small town cannot be safe, can any of us be? Within Kenya, the response of press freedom groups was immediate. CPJ, RSF, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, all issued statements, condemned the killing, demanded investigation. Local media ran his story, reran his articles, tried to keep his name alive. Some editors invoked his case when asking for increased protection for journalists, for legal reforms, for better policing of corruption. But international condemnation and local outcry, important as they are, do not always translate into justice. They do not always protect the next journalist. Impunity persists. He walked with a pen in his hand and truth in his heart. In a world that rewards silence, Francis chose to speak, and for that, he paid the highest price. His story is not just about one man's murder. It's about what happens when truth becomes dangerous, when asking questions becomes a threat, when justice moves slowly and silence moves quickly. 15 years later, the wound still aches for his wife, Josephine, for his children who still wait for answers, for colleagues who feel a chill every time they publish a story that cuts too close to power, and for a nation still learning what it means to protect those who dare to speak truth to it. But beyond the pain lies a lesson, that truth, once spoken, can never be buried. Because Francis may be gone, but the questions he asked still echo. And until they are answered, his story will never truly end.